Good morning. Got my defroster on full because you know what? It is below the dew point. We've hit our saturation point with the humidity and air temperature. Science, yay! I love it. Actually, I love my geography class. Totally, definitely recommend it to anybody who's interested in what is going on around us at any given time. Anyway, something I wanted to kind of talk about that has been a thing for me for a long time is, you know, I've got a history. I've been through some stuff. And I've always been told by the guiding people in my life, as it were, that it's my responsibility. Like my wounds and stuff, that's my responsibility. And what I interpreted that as, the way I understood that was them, you know, I understood that as them saying it's your fault. I understood responsibility as meaning fault. And that is a very incorrect interpretation. Because responsibility can mean that you're at fault for something. But what happened to you, what happened to me, that wasn't my fault. You know, through the actions of other people, you know, that I did not have a hand in precipitating whatsoever. That was not my fault. Things that happened to us when we were kids, not our fault. But it is our responsibility. And I'll tell you why. It is our responsibility to heal from that stuff so that we don't hurt other people. And I'll tell you why it's our responsibility is because nobody else can do it. It is an inside job to heal from that stuff. Nobody owes you anything. You should get an apology. Should. In an ideal world, you should get an apology from the person who hurt you, took action against you, violated, you know, your safety, violated your personhood, whatever it might be. Ideally, yes, they owe you an apology. But most of us will never get that apology. But we are still responsible for healing from what happened to us. And that's a tough thing because we want to say, well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. I shouldn't have to carry this. Well, while that's true, what is also true is that you are carrying it because it did happen. If you try to sit there and say, oh, well, this shouldn't have happened, that's a way of trying to rewrite history and saying, I shouldn't have had this experience. Correct, you shouldn't have had this experience. However, saying that you shouldn't have had it, fighting that fact that you did have that experience, makes it so much harder to heal because you're not accepting that, yeah, this did happen. And only once you accept that, yes, this thing happened, can you start to move forward of how do I heal from this thing? How do I put myself back together? How do I become a healthier person? That is taking responsibility for your wounds. It is taking responsibility for caring for your wounds. You know? Say, okay, here's a metaphor for you. Again, we're going to go with a car crash. You get in a car crash. Somebody T-bones you. Right? That person is not responsible for you going to physical therapy and you doing the work to recover. Okay? They can't do that for you. Are they responsible for paying for it? Ideally, if they have insurance, etc. Yes. However, they cannot do the work. Only you can do the work. And this applies to decisions that we make in life as well. You know, I've made some really unfortunate choices. And I've learned from those choices. But those choices have consequences. I can sit here and flail and go, well, this isn't fair. I shouldn't have to deal with this. I shouldn't have to go through this. I shouldn't have to feel this. I can fight it. I can fight the fact that this is what it is. You know, other people made choices. I made choices. It is what it is now. I can fight that. Or I could take responsibility for my part in it. And I could say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I made some crappy choices. Yeah, there's some things I shouldn't have done. And I can also say, okay, so what do I need to work on in myself so that I don't make these kinds of choices in the future? You know, what can I do to make right now better? And what can I do to protect myself and other people in the future? That's responsibility. You know, it's not sitting there pointing the finger, laying blame. I've got a friend who is an amputee. And what happened wasn't his fault. You know, the loss of his limb was not his fault. But his healing, how he copes with it, what he does with his life is his responsibility. Nobody else can take responsibility for your life. You can have some messed up stuff happen to you, and nobody else can take responsibility for your life. It is your life to live. And you are responsible for how you live it. And the tough part is you are responsible for how you live it no matter how you're equipped. And when we're not properly equipped, when we don't have the right tools, it's really tough to make good choices. And by good choices, I mean, I guess non-damaging choices. Morally sound, etc., that are going to be good for our future. But we're still responsible for that. Is that to say that we are at fault for that? Not necessarily. If nobody ever taught us to do better, we're still responsible. Because our responsibility is to learn to do better. It is our responsibility to learn what we need to learn. And a lot of times we don't know until we know. And that is the point at which we become responsible for that. If we are just out flailing in the dark and we make repeated mistakes, and we don't know what mistake we're making, we're responsible for finding that out. Even if we don't realize that we are, excuse me. We are not doing the speed limit right now. We are responsible for figuring out where we are going wrong and for fixing that. And when I say fixing, I mean making the necessary adjustments to our perspective and behavior in order to be healthy individuals and make those better choices for ourselves and for our futures and for others. if we had the upbringing that teaches us healthy personal responsibility, it's not that hard. However, if we did not learn that in our growing up, it's a hard thing to learn as an adult, particularly if you're alone and you don't really have any guidance on that. This is actually something where therapy helped me a lot, because I grew up kind of a feral child. I grew up, most of my time was spent outdoors, and I had a lot of outdoor experience, but I also didn't learn a whole lot about life itself. Growing up, I wasn't given responsibilities. I went to school and I got good grades, and my mom didn't push me for those good grades. It was a natural achieving thing. Wow, traffic this morning. Yeesh. I didn't learn the concept of personal responsibility. And so I had to learn that as an adult. I ended up taking on too much responsibility. I ended up taking on responsibility for other people's actions and behaviors. A lot of that was due to the abusive relationships where other people made me responsible for their feelings, and that's going back to my previous video. Narcissists will make you responsible for their feelings. You are responsible for everything. And it's an entire trap. Nope. This person in front of me is going like 30 and a 40. And the guy coming up over here is going about 55 and a 40. I don't get why this person does not just move over into the slow lane. Oh my gosh, people. Hey, ball. Right, abusers, personal responsibility. So, that's something that it's a concept I've had to straighten out in my own head, and really gain a thorough understanding of it, because it's something that's been weaponized against me, the concept of personal responsibility. When you're in one of those relationships and you are told, oh, you're responsible for me feeling this way, then you're responsible for fixing it. You're responsible for making me feel a certain way. And you're made culpable, I guess. They tell you, oh, if I kill myself, it's all your fault. Well, no, it's really not. It's just another form of power and control. That's all it is. And, again, it's this messed up version of responsibility. So, in order to take responsibility for your actions, your behavior, your wounds, things like that, something that narcissists really, except for maybe like the 1%, they can't do it, because that disrupts their worldview of them being the ultimate God. All-powerful, all-knowing, flawless. It's a disaster. So, taking personal responsibility does not mean beating yourself up. It means acknowledging where you screwed up, understanding why you screwed up, and figuring out how to avoid screwing up in the future. You know, we as humans, we don't know everything. I don't know everything. I just know from my experience. I know from what I've learned through myself, through others, through formal and informal education. But personal responsibility is not punishment. It is not punishing yourself. It is not self-flagellation. It is not... Ooh. Lots of flashing lights up there. It's not going, oh, I'm such a terrible person, blah, blah, blah. Because that's a cop-out too. If you're saying you're a terrible person, right? You're saying, I can't do any better than this. Well, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to call BS on that, because we as humans are capable of change. We are capable of growth. And when you think of yourself as incapable of change and growth, you are not going to change or grow. And that's on you. Somebody may have coerced or abused or convinced you to feel and think that way about yourself. And the crappy part about that is that it's your responsibility to figure that out and fix it. You know, your thought process, what goes on inside of your head, that is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to untangle those knots. It is your responsibility to make sure that what you are believing is the truth. It is your responsibility to make sure that your thoughts, feelings, etc. that you're in a healthy place, because nobody else can do that for you. Some thoughts for this morning. Have a great day.